Yes, welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV, and it's that time when you take a look at the headlines this morning. And to help us do that, today we have Daisy Mdani, member, convener, coordinator of the National Women's Steering Committee on my right. Next to her, we have David Ocheng and people of Kenya. Karibu sana. On my left, we have Chris Omalo MP Kiminini and Jogu Barua MP from Gishugu. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, the biggest headlines have to do with the president's speech during Madaraka Day Jamhuri Day celebrations yesterday. Kenya was marking the 53rd Jamhuri Day celebrations, and of course he made a few comments, and we'll be looking at those. But on the two front pages of the Standard and the Daily Nation, on the Daily Nation, Uhuru warns leaders on 2017 poll violence. On the Standard, 2017 election warning. Both headlines talking about the same thing. But before we talk about this, because it's something that I feel we could be well, almost forgetting, is the nurses and doctors strike. Remember, it's been over a week now. The strike started last week Monday. By yesterday, that was 1 week straight. Still no deal. Yesterday, what happened is that the nurses rejected a deal that had been signed by some of their leaders. That was the chairman and the deputy secretary general, and so when they met yesterday, they rejected that deal, meaning that the nurses strike continues this morning, meaning that public health facilities across the country still cannot attend to patients, meaning the crisis continues. A sad state of affairs, Daisy.
A very sad state of affairs, and I think that even sadder is that the president didn't see fit to address himself to this matter, because the crisis, it is a huge crisis, but then it's not a new crisis, because it's almost an annual ritual, you know, this doctors and nurses striking because of the collective bargaining agreement, and you know, the government makes commitments, doesn't honor them. And I think that we really need a final and a lasting solution to this problem, because the ordinary Kenyan is the one who is suffering. And I think that when you begin to look at the stance that is taken by the medical workers, when you look at the figures that are thrown out, you know, the amount of corruption, the amount of money that is lost in corruption, and yet the state doesn't want to take serious action towards ensuring that our doctors and nurses are properly remunerated, and ensuring that the devolution of these services is actually done in such a manner so as not to disrupt the process of you know, delivering healthcare. I think that we have a problem. We have dishonest engagements in this country in the way things are done. I am not entirely certain as to what exactly you know, the bottom line is, but we do know this, that there have been negotiations that have been ongoing for the past 2 years between the county governments, the union heads of both the doctors and the nurses, and I think that we need the government to give serious concern, serious action towards resolving this matter for once and for all.
But David Ocheng, the fact, now we could even move to the president's speech, because that was the next agenda. The fact that the president steered clear of this strike, I'm sure everyone must have been expecting when the president comes to address the nation yesterday. At least there would be a line or two with regard to the medic strike, but he did not. He talked about road bumps and talked about everything else, but not the strike.
You know, Fred, the president has his own problems, as you can see clearly. He's having so many problems. This one of health is your problem. It's not his problem. He has so many things going on wrong in his life, in my opinion, in the way the country is being run. So this is the problem of Kenyans who can access services. It's not his problem, and that's why he didn't address it. That is my opinion. Because if for a whole week people can't be treated, people are dying, and the president doesn't say anything about it, and he thinks that it's good to talk about NGOs, and it's good to talk about what he has done in electricity, and he can't address health, is because he's confusing his personal problems with the country's problems. Now the health issue is a country's problem. It's not a personal problem. And so he needs to wake up and get to know that Kenyans don't want him addressing his personal challenges, things to do with the upcoming elections. He is the president of the republic, and so he must rise to the occasion. Now, the issue of the health in this country, since devolution, has been mismanaged both by the national government and the county government. Fred, for the last 1 week, you don't see any governor or the minister saying that the nurses are wrong. I don't know if you heard them say that. The grievances of the nurses and the doctors are very genuine, very, legitimate grievances. And that's why you cannot begrudge them. And so what you want to imagine is, what is difficult in the government telling nurses and doctors that we agree we are wrong. We agree that this is a problem that we should have solved yesterday. What do? Grandstand, pivot, try to, fight, try to now divide the unions and say, oh, we'll pick the assistant secretary and chairman, put aside, and then take the other guys put aside, hoping that then that will solve it. Now, I think the government needs to come clean on this. And I sometimes I don't understand why the presidency and his government cannot realize that the Constitution allows them. Fred, one thing that people just don't understand is that the Constitution allows the president to even recall some of these roles.
Yes.
Let him come to parliament and say, I think health has been mismanaged, we want to take it over. He's not done so, if that was the problem.
I'm actually looking for a statement sent out by the Council of Governors regarding that same matter. And I've seen it on the dailies, and we'll find it as we continue this discussion, because they've even issued a warning to the nurses that they better go back to work or else. And that's just the sad state of affairs, because at what point should the president really come in? Because the Council of Governors, the CS of Health, the PS, they've totally been unable. It's a week later. They've not been able to get a deal with these medics. Surely, shouldn't we now move to the next level, which probably is the president?
I think it is very, very unfortunate to note that His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, in many cases, he misses the priorities of this country. I listened to his speech yesterday. I was very disappointed. He never mentioned anything pertaining the healthcare crisis. And this president of ours is that the time he came in, he swore to defend the Constitution. Under Article 43 of the Constitution, it stipulated clearly that every Kenyan citizen has a right to quality healthcare. You cannot have quality healthcare if at all there are no doctors, if at all there are no nurses. It is the prerogative of the president, like never before. He should have done it like yesterday, to have called the union officials, the governors, the committee that's in charge of health, the CS, in his own place in State House, so that he can be able to look for a lasting solution. We can't sit and wait. Kenyans are dying. For how long is he going to wait? I remember last time when he was the official opposition leader, and I remember his speech against President Mwai Kibaki, that he was a hands-free man, a legs-free man, hands-off man. Now we are seeing the same president, he's now hands-off, particularly when it comes to the crisis of the healthcare in this country. If it is a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, this is something that the stakeholders had agreed, that by the end of a certain period, they need to get some salary increment of this percentage. Something that was negotiated, something that was agreed, just like Swahili says, ahadi ni deni. So if at all the money when it comes to implementation has been misplaced or has gone through corruption, maybe through the other cartels, the best thing should have been done is to call for these people that are Kenyans, sit down and see what happened, that you cannot be able to fulfill part of the bargain. And they're Kenyans. Maybe they can try to negotiate and extend the period. But the president to give a deaf ear of what is going on, it is very, very unfortunate. We can't wait anymore. It's unfortunate that Parliament is in recess, but I've done a letter to the minority leader to recall Parliament and discuss this matter. Because under Article 95 of the Constitution, National Assembly can discuss any issue that affects the nation to be able to resolve.
So is there possibility that
absolutely, and that's what you want. I've already done the letter, and we are waiting to see. And now it's upon the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is actually third in the command, to be able to recall Parliament, so that Parliament can be able to discuss this issue. It's a national crisis, and we can't just sit and watch because the president is not giving direction.
Yes, Bwana Njogu Barua, of course, the president had the perfect opportunity yesterday and platform to address the nation on this matter. He just did not. Did you expect him? Did you expect the kind of treatment of the matter from him?
Thank you, Fred. I think it could have been quite important if the president had mentioned that issue, because an issue that's actually of concern to all of us Kenyans. But that I would like to say also that it's not also possible for the president to actually include everything that concerns this country in the presidential speech.
Even then, when the country is in a crisis.
I think this is my chance. So
it's a question.
I agree. It's your chance.
Okay, but I'm saying this. I say let me go on, man. But what I'm saying is that this is a bigger problem because I've listened to my colleagues, who I respect very much, but this debate is turning as a debate against one man called Uhuru Kenyatta. I think we should go to principle. But when I come to that issue, I want to say that what I'm hearing from this panel here, and from what I'm hearing from outside, people want to hear more from the president.
Yes.
They want more action from the president. So what Kenyans are telling us, in short, is that we need more powers and trust in the presidency. So the new constitution has actually removed a lot of powers from the president and give it to commissions. So it may be important for us now to go back to the drawing board and revise the constitution so that we give more powers to the president, not Uhuru Kenyatta, but the presidency will be president. Because it seems that Kenyans have not used this issue of other people acting. They only want to hear from the president. Like in a constituency that counties today, you can ask Ochieng or Malwa here. People, the common mwananchi, is still used to the MP addressing issues. Even issues of water, which are devolved, issues of health, are still being referred and demanded from Member of Parliament, and we have a very big workload in terms of expectation. So in my own opinion, is that devolution came in too fast, and I think there could have been maybe a bigger time frame for devolution. The other issue is that in terms of the strike itself, we need to come up with a lasting solution. It is not the first time doctors are striking. They did it during Moi time, Kibaki time, and also Uhuru time, and maybe Kenyatta one, because I was not active that time. So we need to have clear remunerations for all cadres, so that you know if you go get a job as a doctor somewhere, you'll be paying this amount of money. This is your benefits. If you employ as a teacher, the same case. So we need the government to work out a clear structure of who should be paid what and when.
It's so that not just about payment. And doctors are also complaining about working conditions,
and
understaffing. I mean, it's so much wider than just pure remuneration.
Fine. I'm talking
and
about
the buck stops at presidency.
Exactly, the president. But you see now, even the working conditions, those are things that should be spelled out. And I'm just sitting on payment because most nurses now asking about doctors.
Don't you think to just at least stop the loss of life, even as the negotiations continue, the president could have at least acted and talked to the unions?
But you see now,
before he comes, Honorable Barua is trying to tell us that the president has no powers now. He has immense capacity and power
let me put it
under the law that you cannot tell us that you need to change the constitution to make him act in this kind of
exactly.
You've seen his ministry of health. They're varying money meant for services down there to buy tins and mabati is called
containers.
We have seen the president himself launching diagnostic equipment, 38 billion shillings worth of diagnostic equipment in State House. So it's very disingenuous for you to
that's
fine. The president has no power.
That's your view. But all I'm saying is this: my friend Ochieng said that he said that both the national government has failed and the county government has failed.
Yes.
He said that
it is a collective
remember, we have one country.
Just a minute. Can I have a chance to make my... You have to defend me now.
Now that we're talking about Council of Governors, just before you continue, Bwana Barua, I've traced that statement by the Council of Governors on the Daily Nation. The Council would like to reiterate the following, that the signed agreement between the county government, the national government, and the Kenya National Union of Nurses resumed in lieu of that, the nurses resumed duty immediately on the 11th of December. So according to the governors, the nurses should be back to work.
Yes.
But we
There
do
was an
know
agreement.
that, yes, there was an agreement on Sunday.
There was an agreement.
But surely...
there wasn't.
There was an agreement.
They signed part of the nurses' leadership signed.
You know,
the
Fred, you saw, you know, the union politics works this way. And I like the gentleman saying
divide and rule.
that the Secretary General of a union, trade union, is the one that calls the strike based on the decision of the council. Now, what happens, you've seen it happen in teachers and everybody else. Now, once that agreement is reached, the council meets to ratify. Okay? And so you have these two guys going to sign on behalf of nurses. Remember, the Secretary is not there.
Yes.
Notice that he's abroad or he's sick.
Why is it?
Okay? Then he says, let's ratify this on a Monday. So yesterday, when things were happening in Nyayo Stadium, they were meeting. And they have said, there's no agreement.
There's no deal.
Yeah, but is it, okay, I'm still going back to where I stopped, because actually I was trying to say something which I think is important. And I think you guys give me some chance.
In your opinion.
Okay, but
Because I think you have to protect me from now, because I made with my thoughts, the thought process. I was just saying that Honorable Ocheng said that the national government has failed and the county government has failed. And governors have not expressed themselves on these issues, just as the president has not done it. Then he goes ahead and says that president is addressing his personal problems, as if governors don't have personal problems.
They have.
So,
That's
so
what
I'm saying.
No,
so what I'm saying. No, wait a
that is
minute.
the point.
So what
the governors have spent just now. It's time to address this matter. Even though.
But here you have to listen to me, my friend. You have to listen to me, my friend. Because at this time,
you need to finish up
He's
whatever
not,
you're saying.
on this you
the
can't.
point is not coming out.
Do
He's
politics.
just blubbering.
This one you can't do.
No.
politics.
I'm saying
This one
let us
won't allow
not
you
pass
to
on
do
this
politics.
debate one person. Let us argue on the principle.
Yes.
Let us not express our hatred.
The concern was the fact that in his Jamhuri Day speech, the president did not
Ignored.
did not see fit
Address.
to
Not just
a national crisis. To address a national
the whole
crisis.
week he's been all over the place. Kirinyaga, Bomet,
Campaigning.
not uttered a word
Campaigning.
about the doctor strike.
Yes.
But it's a shame on the
But
president.
the minister is discussing this thing. The
Gentlemen,
minister for health.
no,
The governors are in the debate.
It's a shame.
Gentlemen,
No, it's
now
not a
that you're
shame.
talking about the
The
president's
honorable member has lost the point. Can we
can't
move
do
on?
that.
Now that we're talking about the
You can't
president's
do that.
speech, whatever he talked about is listed on front pages of both dailies. And on the Standard, of course, he talks about foreign influence. The head of state warned that foreign cash is flowing in to influence elections, and that was a direct accusation against the civil society. He said some civil societies are getting cash to influence elections, and we do have a member of the civil society with us, Daisy Mdanyi, will help us discuss that. About the ICC issue, The Hague, in the clearest signal yet, the president says that ICC pullout is still on the cards. Yeah. On education, next year, class 1 to 3 pupils will have digital devices. Corruption, he said, he warned that those looting cash earmarked for the youth will be held to account. On the Naivasha tragedy, of course, he hit out a transport ministry over haphazard bumps. So he talked about the bumps, but the health crisis. On the Daily Nation as well, President accuses foreign powers of trying to influence outcome of elections, and I think this was one of the highlights. Everyone picked this one. That one, ICC, and of course again, the bumps. Let's start with the civil society
and the bumps.
It is a direct accusation. Of course, it's been there previously. Whenever NGOs try to come, organizations that say they work on governance issues.
Yes.
Around election time, they try to mobilize, try to educate voters, but with that comes accusations. It could come from both sides of the divide. This time around, it's coming from the president.
Which is very unfortunate because, I mean, for me, it smacks of paranoia because when the president makes a stark accusation, because it was almost, for me, it looks like it was a threat to civil society, but also to development partners that are there. It has been a standard procedure from even when he was the official leader of opposition. He himself worked with civil society and international partners to be able to carry out activities aimed at good governance and democracy. So for him to actually say that he believes that money is being brought in to influence the outcome of elections, I think that is disingenuous. But then this is an accusation that has come persistently from the Jubilee administration, where civil society has been accused of seeking of being used as agents of regime change. Now, and that was also in line with the ICC matter, which I find very strange, you know, because many people were quite shocked that the president introduced the ICC at a time when it's not exactly relevant. But you know, when we go back, and this is where the media needs to help Kenyans to remember, the ICC was not about civil society. It is not civil society that signed the Rome Statute. Neither is it civil society that said, let's not be vague, let's go to Hague. Actually, the president himself, when he was a member of parliament, is the one who instigated. They're the ones who insisted that this issue be handled at the Hague. They refused to set up a local tribunal. But when their names came up, they turned around and they said, oh, it is now aimed at regime change. It is aimed at stopping us from getting into power. Yet we know that the drive, you know, for them seeking high office was really to use office to defend themselves against the ICC. Well, on the issue of civil society, democracy and governance, that is the president saying that he does not want to be held accountable, Kenyans to hold the Jubilee government accountable, because democracy and governance is about accountability, and Kenyans have a right to demand accountability from their government, because the sovereign power belongs to the people. So he cannot outrightly threaten us that if you're working in issues of democracy and governance, you have we are marked, you know, because they themselves, Jubilee, are in partnership by their own confessions with the Chinese, the Communist Party of China. These are not Kenyan. That's a foreign power. So at the end of the day...
Yes, but Ocheng, surely for the president to pick out that and actually include it in his speech on Jamhuri Day, then it cannot be taken as a simple matter. There must be a real concern from his end.
Two things, huh? One is that the guilty are always afraid, Ved. The guilty will always be afraid. Because why don't you want Kenyans to know? What is it that these guys are doing that is untoward? Tell us. But the major issue is that there's no ICC this time round. There's nothing to galvanize Kenyans against. So what do? Try to paint civil society red. Then along the way you're going to tie them to the opposition and say that they want to use try to get something to create emotions. Tell Kenyans that, oh, you know, the opposition is working with the foreign governments to overthrow our government. That is where it's headed, Fred. Only that is too obvious. If the president, you know that this is too obvious. Kenyans now know that they have no agenda to run on, and they now want to try to create propaganda. But on this matter, by the way, a government that 2 weeks ago I saw receiving a couple of choppers from the US to help the military. A government that I've seen receiving money from the UK to help run programs in this country. A government that I've seen borrowing to the biggest, highest limits from China is saying that they don't want foreigners to, you know, help with these matters. So it boils down to what I told you earlier. The president is running scared that he's lost it, and he is indeed lost it, and so they don't know what to do. That's why he can't address the issues. He's now trying to basically just venting.
Yes, when Jogu Barua, I'll give you time to actually form your defense properly, because I know it's a lot of work for you this morning.
It is indeed.
And of course, we cannot really wish away the involvement of foreign countries in such a process. When you're going to election, and the election year, we can't really say that no other country will get involved in the process, can we?
Of course we cannot. I think the president is worried and is scared, looking at the trend that is developing across Africa. Look at Gambia, look at Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, name it. Nigeria. We are seeing the people, incumbents, they're being kicked out through the ballot. And I think the president is scared, notwithstanding the corruption cases that are going on. And he's looking at the issue of ICC at such a time to send a signal to Kenyans. And you want to tell the president, when you read Article 2, I think sub-Article 6 of the Constitution, any convention or treaty that Kenya has ratified is part and parcel of our laws. The Rome Statute is there to stay. I know it's an executive order when it comes to exit, but crimes against humanity, people are going to be very vulnerable when it comes to the 2017 elections. So Kenyans are not ready for Kenya to exit from this ICC case. You know, like in 2013, it worked as a deterrent. Indeed, it's a deterrent. So if the president really means well for Kenyans, unless there's a hidden agenda that we need to know. So you can't come at such a time and say, we are trying to evaluate and see. For the common manager wants peace, we want ICC to be there, because it's going to be a deterrent when it comes to the 2017 elections, particularly at such a time when there is a revolution going around in Africa. One thing I'm happy about it, he said he's ready to leave State House for coalition to take over. I think that was very good. And we are waiting to look into that. When it comes to the matters of the civil society, the civil society exists in any country for purposes of transparency and accountability. And His Excellency the President, the time he was official opposition leader, he worked very closely with the CMD. He has worked very closely with the NDI. He has worked very closely with the ICJ, for instance. These are bodies that have tried to bring oversight in this country when it comes to matters of transparency and accountability. Why is he now running away? And the Jubilee government has been totally against accountability. Even the leader of majority, they introduced a bill in Parliament to gag and limit the extent of the public benefits, where it was saying that 15% of the budgets, the donor funding should not go beyond the 15%. Then we ganged up to kill that bill, because now if you'd say that donors will only give you 15%, where will you get the 85%? Is the government going to provide that? And you know the civil society has played a very critical role, as even when it comes to employment, improvement of the welfare of the Kenyans, issues of governance, issues of accountability. So whatever the president said yesterday, it was very unfortunate. And I think we can also blame his advisors. At such a time, why should you come up with such issues?
We need to take a short break and enjoy some music. But before that, Bwana Njogu Barua, even without we change anga. We'll be talking about that as well for musical tomorrow. But Bwana Njogu Barua, these two highlights, civil society, ICC, are they really the priority right now? That is what we get on the headlines. Front page, nothing to do with the health medic strike, but we're talking about civil society influencing the elections and ICC. Were those the biggest things yesterday, really?
First and foremost, again, the debate has gone back to the president again. Which I think
it's because we are discussing his speech yesterday.
I know we are discussing the speech, but I'm saying that there is an opinion of the president. There is my own opinion. In Parliament, you have got private members' bills and government bills. Even opposition have got their own. They can bring their own bills in the house. So for me, in terms of ICC, I feel honestly, we still need ICC to remain. That's a personal opinion. It's not about Jubilee. It's not about the president. Because I know for sure, 2013, if there was no ICC threat or ICC fear, things would have gone haywire. The other thing is that in future, maybe I'm talking about 2017, 2022, 2042, 2050, we could get a dictator in power, and we still can actually, it is possible to have crimes against humanity, and we need the future generations to be protected from such atrocities. So I think if we are to put the issue of withdrawing from the Hague as a country, we need to be told exactly what is informing this decision, and if Kenyans are convinced, then you can support the whole thing. But for survival purposes as Kenyans, I think generally Kenyans feel that ICC has made us stable. Finally, I would like to mention the issue of which Chris has raised, civil society. I think civil society has actually played a very important part in the development of this nation in many sectors. If there is one or two civil society organizations which are bringing money to be used for other bad things like terrorism, let them be smoked out, let them frag them out, and then stop them from doing that. But support from foreign donors in terms of agriculture, environment, human rights, good governance, I think that's something we should consider retaining. Finally, I would like to say that the statement from the president, which is being interpreted differently, it clearly says we, talks about we as Kenyans. Sometimes Ocheng uses Kenyans when it means ODM, but this one it means Kenyans. We Kenyans, we either accept the results, and by saying we, he's meaning whoever is contesting the presidency should be able to accept the results or challenge them.